Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be doing my October reading wrap up, and this month was really good. I read 11 books, 1 DNF, and I actually did have 5-star read, so I'm so excited to share with you guys my reviews for all the books. And yeah, so let's get into it. So I was trying to read more like fall vibey books, but I was mostly mood reading, so when I wasn't in the mood for like fall books, then I didn't read fall books, I guess. But this month was mostly YA, I would say, mostly romances as well, so I guess I was in a romance mood. And the first book I read was Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This book, it was my first 5-star in a while. I've only had a few 5-star reads this year, and this was the first one. I don't even know like what to say about it. It's just amazing. I have read so many of Marissa Meyer's books, Gilded, Cinder, like I can't even think of them all off the top of my head. Did she write Renegades? Yes, Renegades. And this is my favorite book of hers. It is a YA fantasy, a retelling of The Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, and it is just amazing. Like, every single part of it, it's like a villain origin story, and seeing her development throughout the story. She starts out just like as a baker, and then how does she get to be that queen who's like off with her head, like she's such a big villain in the Alice in Wonderland books, but she starts out as just a girl who loves to bake. And the story and the romance is just so good, and the ending literally broke me, and I just cannot stop thinking about the book. You just need to read it. If you love fairy tale retellings, if you love villain origin stories, if you love Marissa Meyer, if you want a really atmospheric, the world that this book is set in is just so atmospheric. I love baking and desserts, so I mean, everything about the book was amazing, and the character development is so gradual, but also like there's a lot of foreshadowing, and it's just piecing together the little Easter eggs, and getting to that ending is just so satisfactory. So yeah, 5 stars, my favorite book that I've read in a while so far. Then I read A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, going off the fall baking theme, I guess, by T. Kingfisher. This is my first ever T. Kingfisher book. I know she has so many books, and I'm excited to read more of them after reading this one. I wouldn't say this is a YA fantasy. I would actually say it's more of a middle grade fantasy book, just because it was very like low stakes, and the main character felt very young to me. So like I think I would have really enjoyed this when I was in like middle school, and it was very cozy fantasy, very fast-paced and easy to read. If you just want a cute little pick-me-up for like a fall afternoon, this would be perfect. It's just about like this girl who knows how, it's like a fantasy world, and she can like put magic into her baking, like her bread making, and gingerbread men come alive, and there's like some threat to her like their world, and she is using her powers to save it. And it's just a very quick read. Like I said, it's if you're looking for like a more nostalgic type of read, then this would be it. So don't expect like a very, and there's no romance either, so don't expect a very like YA type of fantasy book that you're used to reading. This is more of like a cozy contemporary fantasy almost, and it's like, I rated it at 3.5 stars because I did enjoy it, and I do think I would have enjoyed it more if I was younger, but like for what it was, I thought it was really good. Then I read a YA mystery book, and it might be one of the best YA mystery books I have ever read. It is called The Good Girls by Claire Eliza Bartlett. I'll put it up. And how do I even explain the book? Okay, so when I was starting it, it switches POVs very often within the same chapter, so we're not getting like a separate chapter heading with the new name that shows that we're switching the POVs like usually happens in books. It will switch within the same chapter, which was really kind of annoying to me at the beginning, but once you look past that, the book is brilliant. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. it's like an interconnected weave of stories between these. So we're following like multiple girls and their stories, and there's a murder and a mystery happening, and their stories all weave together, and then the ending of the book, it just hits you with a bang. And it's just, I can't even explain it without spoiling anything. Just don't think of it as your typical mystery book. It's a book about revenge, a book about powerful female main characters, and a book about cooperation among the most unusual, like the most like discordant people, basically. Like, you don't know how their stories connect until you get to that like light bulb moment at the ending where you're like, that's actually crazy. And it was just an amazing, very unique YA book. YA mystery, I gave it 4.5 stars. I have read so many YA mysteries, it's one of my favorite genres, and this is definitely on like the higher end of all of the ones I've read. Then Always Never Yours by Emily Wibberley. This was my only DNF this month, and it was a YA romance about, I'm not even really sure what the full plot was because I didn't finish it. I DNF'd it pretty early on in the book, probably around 10 to 15%. I know she's in the theater, and it was a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I'm not sure if it was an enemies to lovers or what the trope was, or if there even was a trope, but I did not like the main character at all. I just didn't like her personality, and usually sometimes I can push through that, but this time it was just getting on my nerves a lot. I also wasn't very interested in the story. It just wasn't standing out to me, so I didn't really want to continue with it. I did put it down and then try to pick it up again, and starting from the beginning, not even from where I left off, just to see if I could get into it again, and I didn't. So I was just like, okay, it's been 2 times that I've DNF'd it, let's just put this down. And so yeah, that was a DNF, and it just didn't stand out to me, and I do not think I'll pick it up again. But if you want sort of like a Romeo and Juliet sort of, if you like reading about YA kids like in high school who are in theater, then maybe you'd like this with a romance subplot, but otherwise I would skip it. I think there are better YA romances. Then I read The Prison Healer, which has been going very viral as of last year, I think. I've been seeing it everywhere. By Lynette Noni, and I rated it 4 stars. This book was a fantasy book, and we don't get to actually see much of the fantasy world in the first book, but I definitely am going to continue the series just because the world seems so interesting to me and I really want to see more of it. So the book essentially takes place entirely in the prison, and the main character has to go through like these trials, and so in order to escape the prison so she can return to her family. And so there's also a romance subplot, which I love the romance in this book, it's so good. But first I want to talk about the trials. That was the only thing that kept it from being a 4.5 or 5 stars. It's just because the trial aspect to it seemed so interesting to me, and it was like a pivotal moment in the book. Like, it was the reason I picked the book up, because I read that there were going to be like trials and games in the description like of the book in the back, and that's like one of my favorite, like, not tropes but favorite aspect of fantasy books, when they have like high stake trials. But they only lasted like a couple pages. It was probably like 2% of the entire book that we spent on the trials, and that was like really disappointing to me because I just wanted more of it. I wanted it to be a bigger aspect of the book, and that's what held it back from being a higher rating. But everything else was impeccable. The plot was so amazing, and that ending. I have a list of the top, like my top most surprising book endings of all time, like book endings that like gave me whiplash that I never saw coming. It's like the kind of book where you like shut it and you stare at the wall and you're like, what just happened? This is probably number 2 or 3 on that list. I finished the book, the last word, it's like the last line of the book, and I was like, wait, hold up, what just happened? I went back and reread it. I was like, am I reading this right? And then I like started to piece together all the clues and that we had been given throughout the story, and I was like, how did I not see this coming? The ending is amazing, and it just makes me want to read the book so much. Oh, and if you want to read this series, it's a commitment. Like, you're not just gonna read the first book and be like, okay, that's it. Like, you are going to be invested after that ending, and you're gonna end up reading the whole series. So I'm so excited to finish the series. I think it's perfect for fall, and it was just such a good atmospheric fantasy book. I definitely think it's worth the hype. 4 stars. Then I read How to Survive Your Murder by Danielle Valentine. This was definitely like a fall Halloween book. Perfect vibes for this spooky season. And it was like I love like books that like break through time, if you know what I mean, like where it doesn't follow the original construct of time. Either we're going back in time or we're repeating a day over and over again or something like that. And this was similar in that she's trying to solve the mystery of like the murder, but like reliving the day to try to stop it and figure out what happened. And it was just, it's, if you love like slasher films and horror films, it is really focused on that. Like, she's like a true crime like slasher film aficionado. She loves it. They talk about it a lot in the book. So if you're like a fan of that, I think you'll really vibe with the main character and you'll really love it. I am not a fan, but I still really enjoyed it. And the ending of the book was, it was very surprising for sure, but I don't know if that was in a good way or not. I don't think it was worth it. Like, I don't think the ending was worth like me reading the entire book, especially in a mystery book. I want a good punchy ending, and this wasn't it, and that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. I liked the journey we took to get there. I love the characters, I love the plot line, but the ending just didn't do it for me. So if you're thinking of picking up this book, just know that it doesn't have that satisfactory of an ending, but I think the story itself was perfect for Halloween and like the fall season. Then another such a good read, one of my favorite books probably this year, it's going to be on the list, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I'm late to the trend, and I can't believe I didn't read it earlier. Like, I thought it was being overhyped. I thought people were talking about it way too much. It is such an amazing book. It breaks through that time like sphere. She's immortal essentially, and people complain about it being very slow. If you were living like thousands of years, of course it's going to be slow. That's how the book needed to be paced, so we can understand just how tedious and how like the consequences that come with living forever. And I love that we're going through the different eras of history where she's changing as history is changing. She's conforming to trends, she's breaking through. Her story is so heartbreaking, and it's just such a thought-provoking, atmospheric read. I was so submerged in it. It was slow, but it didn't seem like that. It went by so fast. I was literally like in the book. Like, I could picture it was like I was watching a movie. And the ending of the book is devastating, but perfectly so. I thought it was a perfect ending. I did think there was a missed aspect with one of the characters. I think there was something that, like a little plot line we could have followed there. If you've read it, you probably know what I mean. And it was a little open-ended in that ending, in that case too, with that character. But other than that, it was such an amazing read. I gave it 4.5 stars. I definitely think it was worth the hype. Then I read Every Other Weekend by Abigail Johnson. This is a YA coming-of-age romance book, and it is a very, I would definitely read trigger warnings for the book before you go in. It tackles with very heavy topics, and I think it does it in a very careful way, but I do think that I just didn't really enjoy the book. Like, I do think it was done well, I just didn't really enjoy it. I did not like either of the characters, and I also did not like the romance, which I feel like if you don't like the characters or the romance, like maybe one or the other, you can like kind of like palette the book, but like otherwise it just makes it really hard to read. And it was an easy read, like it was not hard to read, I just wasn't enjoying it that much. I do think the subplot that tackled those topics was like probably the best part of the book, because I think I don't want to say relatable, but like I think people would resonate with it, and I think it's an important lesson, like for people who, how do I say it, like I think people who understand what the character is going through will resonate it, and people who don't understand can learn from what the character is going through and how things like that happen. And I don't want to spoil anything, but like what it means really and what it means for a character to go through something like that. But other than that aspect of the book, I didn't really like anything else. I didn't like the romance or the characters, which is why I just gave it a 3 stars. I don't think it was necessarily a bad book. I just don't think it was a great YA romance. I think maybe we could have just followed one character's story and we would have been fine, or maybe the other. I just didn't really like them together. But yeah, that was just my opinions, and it was an easy, like, fast-paced read, but not easy in terms of the content. Then I read The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This is a YA fantasy series. This is the first book. Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson has been on my TBR for so long, but I actually just like found out that it's like a series, like a sequel, or maybe I don't know, like it's like set in the same world, The Kiss of Deception and Dance of Thieves, but The Kiss of Deception comes first. So I was like, okay, all right, instead of reading Dance of Thieves, I'll read the Kiss of Deception trilogy first. And I honestly don't know if I'm gonna continue the trilogy. I did like the world, and there was a lot of world building, I will say that, but I think it's understandable because it's the first book in a series that's gonna obviously continue for super long, seeing as it has like a sequel series as well. And it was very atmospheric, and I really loved the world we were in, but the plot was very slow and not much actually happens. And there's also, what helps with that is that there's 3 different POVs, which I really enjoyed, but it's a very, very slow burn romance, and like very slow burn, which is why like the first book just was really unsatisfactory because we weren't really getting any romance. The plot was really slow, and we were mostly just getting world building, so not much was happening, and I wasn't really interested in the plot, I'll say, and I don't really know where it's gonna go, which is why I'm kind of skeptical about actually finishing the trilogy. I kind of just want to jump into Dance of Thieves now that I know what world we're in. But you guys let me know if I do need to finish the trilogy beforehand, otherwise I probably won't. I didn't enjoy it that much, but I do think it was a good start to a trilogy, and like I feel like it was like well written, just not very interesting. Like the world building was good and I liked the world we're in, I just wasn't really interested in the story at all or the romance, so I give it 3.5 stars, like slightly above average, I would say. Then The Princess Diaries, book 4. I have been reading The Princess Diaries on and off for years probably now, and I decided to pick up book 4 because I was in I just really wanted like a quick pick-me-up, easy to read book where I don't have to think much, because I didn't want really like a heavy fantasy book after all the world building that in Dance of Thieves or like all the thrillers I was reading. So I picked up book 4. I will say I think it's time for me to put down the Princess Diaries series. I am enjoying it less and less as time goes on. I just feel like this was a nice like pick me up, but I wasn't really enjoying it at all. I think the love for it came for like the first couple books when I was younger, and now I'm just finding the characters a little bit less relatable and a little bit more annoying, I will say, kind of like you find a little sibling annoying, kind of like that. I will say it's a really great series for like middle grade readers or beginning readers, and the main character was very relatable when I was younger. Just now I'm not finding it as much, and it's not that fun to read. But the diary style is probably like, if you have a younger sibling or something, it is written like a diary style. She's writing in her diary, so it's very easy to read, and I loved it when I was younger. So I think this is going to be the time now. This is going to be the time I put it down. 4th book. I gave it 3 stars. I love the series as a whole. I haven't even finished it, but I do love the first couple of books, and I love the movies as well. I just think I'm a little outgrown it now, but I do love Meg Cabot and all her writing. Then the last book I read this month was Catching Jordan by Miranda Kennelly. This is a YA sports romance, and it's about a girl who actually plays football, so it's a woman in sports if you're very interested in that kind of thing. And I did like that aspect of it, sort of. like when it comes to those kind of stories where it's like she's like the only girl on the football team, it's kind of iffy to me because it just feels kind of weird. Like that's great for her, like she's obviously a standout, but like playing on a team of boys, it just not only doesn't seem fair to her, but doesn't seem fair to the team as a whole or to the teams that they're playing against. They should just start a girls football team in that case. But looking besides that, the book was a little misogynistic, I will say, as well, going off of that aspect. So there were parts of the book where I was like, maybe we shouldn't have included that. But looking past that as well, it was essentially a romance book, and the romance fell so flat. I will say it had promise at the beginning, and then the love interest switches and we get a completely different trope than the one we were promised, and the romance was not good. I did not share the main characters at all, and it just gives me shivers when I think about it. You have to read it to understand what I'm talking about. The romance did not seem right to me, like, at all. Like, I just didn't like it. I could not believe, like, that it even happened. I was like, what? Oh, my phone. I was like, what is even going on? There's no way we switched to love interest like this, because in no way would I have expected it to happen. It just seemed wrong to me. I did not like it at all. Did not share the main characters, and I did love the main character herself, though. Like, I thought she had so many interests and so many passions. She was a football player, but she also loved writing, and I wish we could have explored that aspect of her personality more and made it more into like a coming of age book where we focus on like how it feels for her to be the only girl on the football team, her other interests that she's interested in playing, and focus less on the romance and maybe focus more on herself, and like left out those iffy parts of the book. But I thought it was a good premise, it just didn't deliver. So 2.5 stars. I probably would not pick this one up, but it is a full series, and these books are like interconnected, but you don't have to read it in a series. So I think I'll look through and maybe try another one just to see how I feel about the author, but so far I'm not really enjoying it. And yeah, that's it. That is all the books I read in October. It was a pretty good reading month, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I will of course be posting more book recommendation videos this month, so make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know down below what you guys read this month and what you guys thought of my review. Thank you.